The Invasion storyline brought on a lot of new talent from WCW and ECW. The locker room changed drastically in that time and provided a new challenge for the WWF, who for the first time in wrestling history were the only major promotion around. New Japan and All Japan were obviously still doing things, but in North America there was nobody, and for as much as they thought they'd prosper by buying out the competition, it only brought more problems. The Invasion storyline lacked a true strong and logical threat to it. Stone Cold had to turn heel again to join the Alliance and give them a huge start. Now we all know the topics about the Invasion, how it failed or whatever, but that's not the point of this video. We're here to talk about SummerSlam. Just when it seemed like the Alliance had the keys to the kingdom, WWF's two major stars, Kurt Angle and The Rock, were up to the task to battle against this newly formed parasite. It's well known that this story was botched, but am I lying if I said in terms of in-ring years, 2001 isn't one of WWE's very best? The 2000, 2001, and 2002 years of the actual wrestling were the best it had ever been and showed that the industry moved beyond the simple stories of the previous years. There was a lot of hype for SummerSlam 2001. The Rock was coming back, Kurt Angle was being heated up and turning into one of the most popular wrestlers in the entire company. He technically was, but Angle of the summer of 2001 is in another level compared to anything he ever experienced before or since this summer. This SummerSlam was another opportunity for WWF to do something with the Invasion, seeing as 570,000 people purchased this event, which is just about the same as 2000's number. Over 15,000 fans packed the Compaq Center in San Jose, California on August 19, 2001. This event is a bit notable for being one of the first events with a licensed theme song. The theme song for SummerSlam 2001 was Bodies by Drowning Pool, one of the greatest theme songs for a wrestling event ever, and this change was very cool because it helps give the event more of an identity. Once again, there was some excitement for SummerSlam as The Rock had just returned, and in many ways, the WWF suffered without him. I believe that if the Grey One did stay around, then Austin's heel run wouldn't have failed as much as it did. It was still gonna fail because it was a decision that was 1 year too soon, but I think there would have been more to come out of it. The first match on the show is the Intercontinental Championship. Lance Storm of the Alliance faced Edge of the World Wrestling Federation. Storm got heat easily, all for being serious and tried to explain something. I don't know what the something was. He had a small push around this time, but it would amount to nothing like his WCW one. It was nothing like his WCW one. Edge interrupted him and refused to let him cut a promo. Judging by Storm's promo skills, he probably did the world a favor. Edge had a pretty good push around this time period. He was clearly the guy that the WWF was pushing. But let's talk about the match. Edge overwhelmed with his offense early. Storm was more of a slower heel that was using his technical skill to great use. Edge was very fast and caught Storm on a couple of occasions with something. But this was still Storm's match. It was a very simple match with a simple story. Well, I said that word one too many times. But it was a heel versus face thing. There's a lot of crowd interest in Edge though, I will say. So WWF's project was working up to this point with him. Big power slam off the top rope from Edge to change the match. And this right here was Act 3. The match changes entirely. Big comeback sequence from the challenger. He had Storm on the ropes with these strikes and spinning heel kick, Edge-o-matic, and the best part to this point was a sudden powerbomb where Edge caught Storm in mid-sequence. The champion pulled out his half crab from out of nowhere, and all that hope that Edge had was dashing away. It was fading, but the fans had faith and conviction. He locked in his own version of the crab, but didn't find the same success because Christian came out. He messed up the whole thing, but even then Edge still kicked out. Great sequence here leading to the Edgecution and the title for Edge. Good match. It was simple, and if we talk about the first half, it's nothing. It's very generic, not offensive or anything like that, but with the second, they started moving faster and having these solid sequences. The WWF's mid-card really improved a lot here. For 2000, they had Jericho, the Radicals, Kurt Angle, but now with the inclusion of WCW, there was a lot more. The mid-card was already good, but it was even better from here on. Things were much faster in terms of in-ring action, and there was a sense of urgency. And it all started 2 years earlier after The Rock and Triple H went up to the main event scene. Test randomly called Michael Cole a little bitch and said the WWF is the reason why he joined the Alliance. The perfect statement of Michael Cole for his first half of his career, but it was also very unexpected because like usually when you watch WWE nowadays, they try to hype up that word as some big word like oh my god, whereas Test said it in his first sentence as if it was nothing. He praised the Dudleys and believed they deserved more respect from the WWF for their efforts, but instead they're overlooked for Spike Dudley. But a little side note, this trio is the most 2001 tag team ever. Chris Jericho is still over as hell at this point, but it was winding down. Jericho is still finding ways to make Stephanie look like what he would call her. Basically, she's for the streets, for the neighborhood, and for the towns. He said he was gonna leave Rhyno flat, which is something that Stephanie has no concept of. She didn't care at all and even helped him write stuff, which is crazy, but it goes to show you how much she played a part in helping Chris Jericho get to this point in 2001. Alright, 6-man tag team match. Team WWF Spike Dudley, the APA faced the Alliance, the Dudley Boys, and Test. There was some tension between the Dudley Boys as a collective, not the duo. Spike wasn't focused on them and they took it to heart like babies. Test decided to turn on WWF and become angry, and it was a weird year for Test because as a character he didn't show much beforehand, but now he was just like this perfect douche. I don't think there was a lot of guys in the WWF at the time that could play that role as well as Test did. Very fast and physical match here. I enjoyed the APA and Dudley matches from this era, so it's no different here. The crowd was into it and actually gave a damn about the talent. They obliterated their brother Spike, who desperately needed the tag. Bradshaw comes in and changes the complexion of the match. He's out there taking care of these guys. Spike wanted to ride the momentum, but ended up going through the table. Big clothesline from hell, but then Shane McMahon runs in there with a chair to cost the faces the match and pull the momentum back in the Alliance's favor. Fun match. It didn't last long, but if you like the aggression from the Dudleys and APA, this match featured it. Coupled with an exciting crowd and Spike Dudley taking these crazy spots, it certainly belonged on the card and offered something different. No, Matt, don't shake his filthy hand. Christian, meanwhile, had his grandma or Edge's grandma, since they're brothers apparently, hang up on him. 50 IQ Sean Stasiak runs into Stone Cold's locker room, and I'm actually confused as to why Stasiak has Mecha on his trunks. Does he know? Never mind, he's 50 IQ, never mind. This segment was him reminding us that his brain was left at home, and that was that. Planet Stasiak, where nothing goes on. Tajiri defends the WWF Lightweight Championship against X-Pac. Honestly, X-Pac in the year 2001 is cursed to me, and it's all thanks to that Edge promo. But it also shows you how time flies. X-Pac was so popular in 1998, and that was only 3 years earlier, but since then, a lot went down. Good chain wrestling early on, and so far, this show is offering variety, which is a very good thing, especially when the matches themselves are good. Tajiri goes crazy here. His offense was so interesting because nobody in the WWF had something similar to him. It was just so foreign and unpredictable. And watching a match like this, I almost question why the WWF didn't focus more on the lightweights, because they certainly cared a lot about Tajiri. He was all over the place. The moves that Tajiri was throwing around were just beautiful, and X-Pac responded with a plancha. He hit the X Factor from out of nowhere, but then the universe realized it was 2001, so it wasn't enough for the win. Albert ran in there and got misted. X-Pac takes advantage. Low blow hits the X Factor, and there's the victory. It took 2 this time. Very good match. The WWF had something with these fast lightweights, but it wasn't of great importance until the following year. I thought this was the best match up to this point. These guys had talent and had the crowd looking forward to a title match with a belt that almost nobody cared about. Like, we could say X-Pac in 2001 wasn't exactly the most enticing talent or anything like that, but he still had it in him. He was just still from a character standpoint. Whereas this match, was actually one of the best matches on the entire show. Alright, Perry Saturn was looking for a mop in WWF New York. He's on the verge of tears like this was the SpongeBob Gary episode, and yeah, he clearly had some form of CTE, seeing as he ditched Terry Runnels for a damn mop bump. That's the storyline, right? Okay, the next match was between Chris Jericho and Rhyno. Y2J had gotten on Stephanie McMahon's nerves here, and it led to some very memorable segments involving Jericho making an embarrassment out of the $1 Billion Queen. Let the boobies hit the floor will always be timeless, and it's practically a platinum hit in my house. There's also a very memorable moment in the build here where Rhyno gored Jericho through the SmackDown set. Very cool moment and reminds you of how good Rhyno's spear, or his gore, was at the time. Okay, with that said, let's talk about the match. Jericho overwhelmed the Man Beast here. He was fast and elusive, but it was only a matter of time before he bounced back. Stephanie got him back into it, leading to a super spear. I wouldn't call that a gore. Y2J struggled dealing with Rhyno here. He wore him down and slowed down the pace, and for Rhyno, his intensity didn't show much here. He also had Stephanie bailing him out whenever he was struggling. Okay, Jericho makes a huge comeback, but it wasn't enough to beat the Man Beast. He took a page out of Y2J's book with the walls, and it did some damage, but not as much as Jericho usually does. The gore wasn't to be, and Jericho took advantage of the walls, and that was enough to make him tap out. Honestly, didn't care much for this match, and I hope it didn't show too much. The thing about it is, it was a match that was very basic. We didn't get the best of Jericho, and we didn't get the best of Rhyno. The match was one where it felt like they just went out there and did whatever. There's not much of a story to it. You would expect more, obviously, but it just wasn't to be. If you copied this match without the talent involved to 2 other talent, I wouldn't really guess what kind of match it was, because it was very generic. A lot of matches are like that, but we get to see the wrestlers' identities shine bright. Jericho, he did some stuff in here, but it wasn't a lot. The Rock had a lot of motivation ahead of his big match with Booker T. He was determined to win the WCW Championship. Mecha Stasiak, 2 of the greatest daredevils of the 2000s. Rob Van Dam and Jeff Hardy faced off in a ladder match for the Hardcore Championship. This feud is exactly what the Hardcore Championship needed. It's something that gives the belt more respect and value. Jeff Hardy was the champion, and already these 2 had people talking about them with their memorable battle at Invasion. It didn't take long for Jeff Hardy to start taking risks. He hit a springboard here, and Van Dam followed up with a leg drop on the barricade. There was a splash from Hardy with the ladder here, and he followed up with another springboard. Van Van Dam flew across the ring to hit a brutal rolling thunder on Hardy. It felt like you were watching two guys who just wanted to one-up each other, even if it meant they'd hurt themselves. And as the minutes went by, you could clearly notice that this was a very different kind of ladder match. The only thing traditional about it is Jeff Hardy risking his life. That's business as usual. Also, I don't think there was a single worry in the world for Jeff when he heard RVD was gonna face him in a ladder match, because it was two guys trying to steal the show. I don't think Jeff Hardy's worried about RVD not taking any spots. They were missing moves, but it meant nothing because they tried something else that's much more dangerous moments later. At the end of the day, trying to top Jeff Hardy in a ladder match was like successfully headbutting a bull. And the ending was different for once because it was basically Hardy costing himself the match and trying out too many risks for his own good, because he couldn't reach up and try to take out RVD. He was too broken. Good match. It's a different kind of ladder match than what you're used to. You still see the spots, but what makes it different is that it didn't feel cinematic at all. Everything looked grueling and something that would take years off your career. Nothing flashy or amazing. Even the spots themselves looked terrible, but in a good way. Basically, the spots weren't snapshot worthy, to put it simply. We had those kind of images in previous matches, not this one. And those took years off these wrestlers' career. It's just, there's nothing appealing to your eye with this one. Okay, Shane gifted Booker T a bookend off the announce table he hit a bookend on. It's all to motivate him in his battle against The Rock. Wonderful show so far. Surely nothing goes wrong, right? DDP and Chris Kanyon defended the WWF Tag Team Championships. The Brothers of Destruction defended the WCW Tag Team Championships inside a steel cage. Okay, title for title. DDP already didn't have the best of starts to his WWF run, especially the fact that he was thrown into a feud with Great American Undertaker. It was a death sentence. He was much older than the wrestlers, wanted to script his matches, and best of all, he was a WCW guy. And do we need to mention Kimberly Page? Why would he care about the Undertaker? This was sabotage at its finest. The heels did have some moments in this match, but this one was really sluggish. It wasn't that interesting because when you look at it from that time period's perspective, 2001, drowning pools on the radio, DDP and Kanyon stood no chance. On the other side in 2025 today, when we got a strange John Cena heel run, the action isn't even good. The faces were whooping on them so badly, I thought I was watching Heat for some moments. Kanyon managed to escape, but that proved to be a huge mistake. This is a proper burial, although DDP was 8 feet under at this point. I think they were trying to piss on his grave at this point. He didn't have any offense. Undertaker was proverbially, not literally, dropping his nuts on him casually and doing some honorable man shtick, telling him to leave and never look at his wife or something. When has Undertaker had mercy for anyone? Kane told him to kill DDP and he ended up grabbing him and sending him to the lower card with a vicious last ride to win the titles. He did all of this and nobody even remembers this match. 2001 was one of Undertaker's worst years. As a character, I didn't like this whole family thing. I know they tried humanizing him and all that, but we don't need to know he's got a family or even involve them. As a performer, his matches were plotting and for the most part during the invasion served to make him look good as opposed to the other talent. And again, this was actually a company-wide problem. You know, it's not just the Undertaker, to be honest. A lot of the guys didn't want to put over the WCW guys, and it's simple because you're coming into our house. We considered some of you, not everyone obviously considered them competition, but some of them did. They're coming in here and you got to put them over. The wrestlers themselves weren't going to do business. The story itself wasn't even compelling enough, and when you look at all of this from a distance, it was bound to fail. Mecha Stasiak is on the loose again, and I don't know why Rock's telling the World Wrestling Federation doctor that he's looking at the next champion. Did he run out of people to talk to? This pay-per-view is about to take a turn for the positive. Praise the Lord. Okay. Stone Cold Steve Austin defends the World Wrestling Federation Championship against Kurt Angle. Finally. This is what I've been waiting for. Two great technical wrestlers of their era. A red-hot Kurt Angle going up against a man that even Stone Cold himself would have despised. The leader of the Alliance, a crybaby, entitled champion who stooped so low and looking out for himself, all because of his paranoia. Okay, Kurt Angle displayed zero lack of confidence. He was the better athlete, performer, and in the shape of his career. Best of all, he wasn't looking out for help from others, and this damn promo got me all fired up and ready to punch my monitor in excitement. All of this hype in the year of 2025, 24 years later, 24 years after this event. Let the bodies hit the floor. An amped up Kurt Angle seeking vengeance and the ultimate prize. He was wounded, his ankle was hurting, but he had faith. The motivation, the crowd, and the entire World Wrestling Federation rooting for him. These two displayed an insane amount of hatred for each other, and with the camera zooming in slowly, everything was perfect. Austin thought he had Angle cornered, but the challenger had so much intensity and aggression that he was unable to match in the early parts of the match. He was the better performer after all. The champion had Angle's his Achilles, which was the ankle ironically, but his biggest worry in this part of the match was escaping the ankle lock. Stone Cold worked extra hard to keep Angle at bay, but his greatest weapon on this night was the German suplex. He had a hat trick of suplexes with another hat trick right afterwards. Well, actually, he hit 7 German suplexes. Angle was on fire, then followed with a superplex. From out of nowhere, Austin hit the stunner, but Angle kicked out casually. He couldn't believe it. so he hit another one. Brutal throw into the post leads to Angle being busted open. Austin threw him into the post 3 times all while Angle was trying to make logic of his situation. Stone Cold was practically beating up on a defenseless man. Kurt Angle was still kicking out though and Austin was losing it. It was whooping his ass, but this guy was still hungry for more. And then this madman just spawns from out of nowhere with all the fire in the world, locking in the ankle lock. He dragged Austin against his will into the ring for the move, but he made it to the rope. Kurt Angle just refused to quit, and the worst part is, while Austin was spent and damaged, Angle was starting to awaken. It's like the blood was giving him a boost of sorts. The level of desperation was showing for Stone Cold because he brought out the Cobra Clutch, and there's the Stone Cold Stunner. 1, 2, no. Stone Cold still couldn't believe that this milk-drinking moron would kick out. He hit the Angle Slam from out of nowhere but couldn't capitalize on it. Austin, out of desperation, struck the referee. Mike Chioda comes in after Angle hit a DDT, but it still wasn't enough for the win. Stone Cold hit a stunner on the ref and had enough of this battle. Tim White gets struck. Angle hits the Angle Slam, has the title won, but then the WCW referee Nick Patrick rings the bell and gives Angle the win via disqualification. It felt like he ripped the fans' heart out, and Angle was acting like DDA Drugaba in 2009. Well, except for these parts. Nick Patrick tapped out before Angle even locked that damn thing, but what a match. This was amazing. One of the best matches in history to end in DQ. What makes it so good is Angle's resolve and his resiliency. Stone Cold kept on thinking he had it, but then his paranoia came into play. It was a perfect representation of their characters at the time. When things go bad for Austin, he gets paranoid and loses it. For Angle, he just keeps on going and refuses to quit. The story, the intensity, everything aligned here, and the underlying story that had been told since before the match, that being the story of Stone Cold knowing he can't keep Kurt Angle down, was compelling. Because this man heading into the build tried to break his ankle, jumped them, sided with the Alliance because in his eyes they posed the best choice when it comes to keeping the WWF Championship. Great match. And the main event, Booker T defends the WCW World Championship against The Rock. The Great One is back and WWF was in dire need of him inside and outside the ring. And the situation as a whole was bad. Booker T was the best that WCW could offer, but even the fans knew that the real threats were Bill Goldberg and the NWO. Booker T was around there, but he's the only one from 2001 WCW that would fit being an actual threat in a full-fledged invasion. Scott Steiner too. When Booker came out, The Rock just made fun of him. Booker T didn't have the best start to his WWF run by having The Rock interrupt him and ask, "Who in the blue hell are you?" Like, the blue hell part is absolutely hilarious. It's funny, it's from out of nowhere, and it's like, no matter who comes up to The Rock, if you're not Hulk Hogan, if you're not Stone Cold, he's not gonna respect you. But with that said, let's talk about it. Okay, right out of the gate, The Rock had all the intensity. He overwhelmed Booker T. The heels were trying out some dirty tactics, but Rock was far too intense and aggressive. The Rock had improved a lot in ring, but he reached another level with this run. The challenger had a strong hold on Booker T throughout the early parts of the match, and at this point, it's a regular Attitude Era match. Too much battling on the outside. Back in the ring, The Rock had his momentum cut from under. The champion slowed down the pace and worked the crowd. Fans were chanting hard for The Rock while he's being choked on a sleeper hold, and he followed up by locking in this thin-ass sharpshooter. It's almost disrespectful to call it that. That ain't no sharpshooter. That's trash. That's ass. That's absolutely horrific. Shane gets involved to give Booker T his opening back into it. Big moment for The Rock off the catapult into the exposed turnbuckle, and just when it seemed like The Rock was coming back into it, Shane blasts him with the belt. The APA ran in there and Bradshaw dropped him with a brutal clothesline from hell. Absolutely bitched him with that clothesline from hell and sent him inside out. Bookend in the ring for a near fall. Okay, it's time for Act 3, and you guys know what's up with Act 3. It's time for the end of the match. The Rock and Booker T went back and forth. Rock was building some momentum, the throws, the spine buster, and there's the people's elbow. 1, 2, no. Rock had enough of Shane and dropped him with the rock bottom. Booker T had a spine buster of his own and ended up connecting with the scissors kick. He's all hyped now. Does the spinner Rooney only to walk into a rock bottom. 1, 2, 3, new champion. Good match. The ending did make Booker T look like a goober. I did have an issue with the layout, and it seemed like we didn't see The Rock and Booker T all that much, which is ironic seeing as this is their main event. Instead, they had the Attitude Era formula for the most part, and by 2001, that's been done one too many times. If it's Austin and Rock or somebody like Triple H, sure, but I think that formula is best put to the side for battles like this. Rock was electric here. He was very fast and often intense. Booker had his moments, but I really wish this one was laid out differently because in some ways, it did a disservice to both men. In addition, with Austin and Angle, both guys were strong threats to each other. You didn't feel the same way here with Booker T and The Rock. They didn't even try too much. It felt like Booker T was a super strong mid-carder and someone that was giving it his all to beat Rock, as opposed to being one of WCW's best. But in their moments here, I loved Booker and Rock. I just wished it was more competitive and focused on the action because this was both men's athletic primes. 2001 Booker T was insane and at his very best in ring. He was very fast but imposing and had some freak athleticism to him. Rock had just come back and already you could notice him turning things around and having his greatest in-ring stretch of his career. But yeah, I kind of wish this match went a different way in terms of the layout because in it there was some great moments. All it needed was a different style of match and I think that would have gone down well. So yeah, alright, that's SummerSlam. On paper, this is a great event, to be honest. Was there some duds? Yeah, this steel cage match was absolutely horrific. Trash-ass steel cage match. Reminds me of another steel cage match that happened recently. Horrible, especially the way it was booked, but DDP stood no chance, you know? Like, DDP was drowning at this point. They weren't gonna save him. Other than that, Cruiserweight Lightweight Championship match. Very underrated match between X-Pac and Tajiri. Opener was solid. Ladder match was kind of different. And of course, the WWF Championship match was the very best match on the entire show. Kurt Angle, his story here was impeccable. And one of the best match storylines of 2001, definitely, because you saw Stone Cold losing it with every stunner, every strike, every blow. He was losing it slowly, becoming paranoid that this guy was practically indestructible. So he had to cower out and run away. Great story. And of course, solid main event. I even said it was good, but I wish it was more than that. Booking wise, this pay-per-view wasn't that good, to be honest, because when you look at it in a vacuum, this is a great event, but it happened during the invasion and felt like they promised something greater than that, and this turned out to be a regular WWF show with some WCW guys. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's disappointing, but as a show to watch for the action and the matches as opposed to the invasion, you're gonna enjoy it for the most part. So yeah, alright, what'd you guys think of SummerSlam 2001? Please comment down below, and that's the first video. Make sure you hit the angle slam on the like button or perhaps the rock bottom on the subscribe button. Peace, I'm out.